Good evening, folks. Getting ready to see Spider-Man No Way Home. Look what I saw, a Scream poster. Definitely gonna check that one out next month. I believe it's next month. Yeah, January 14th. But I'm so psyched for Spider-Man. I hear so much about it, so many great reviews, and I can't wait to give my review on my take on this beloved franchise that I love so much. Spider-Man's my favorite comic book character of all time. And I will see you guys soon. I could squash you like a bug right now. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Sci-Fi Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen. This week we are doing another movie review. This is Spider-Man No Way Home. And this will be a non-spoiler review. Expect a spoiler-filled review later on. So yeah, very excited to discuss this film. Just saw it today. Been looking forward to it for a long time. And I had high expectations for this movie, I'll be honest. And it lived up to all my expectations. I absolutely loved this film. I think it works on every level. It's got great humor, great action, great special effects, great performances, and it's a great Spider-Man centric movie. Whereas the last two films in the MCU Spider-Man, Homecoming and Far From Home, I think they were more geared towards, Spider-Man, the MCU, and the remnants of Iron Man and all, and the Avengers and all that stuff. Where here, it's pretty much all about Spider-Man. He's the main focus, which is great. That's what I want to see, and we see Peter Parker's character grow throughout the film. He becomes from boy to man, basically. By the end of the film, he's Spider-Man, because the past couple movies he's been Spider-Boy, the high school kid, wet behind the ears, making a lot of mistakes. And there's still a little bit of that at the beginning here, because he does make some big mistakes in this movie. One which has very big consequences, and is a central part of the plot in this movie, involving Dr. Strange's character. So, as we saw at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, now we know that the whole world knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, because that was revealed by Mysterio at the end of Far From Home. Another thing that was that's going on is everyone thinks that Spider-Man killed Mysterio, that he basically murdered him, and we have J. Jonah Jameson out there, played once again by J.K. Simmons from the original Sam Raimi trilogy. He's out there, doing his thing, saying Spider-Man's a menace, and everybody thinks he's like a murderer, and things are just going crazy. He's basically the most famous person in the world. There's people in helicopters trying to get a glimpse of Spider-Man. There's people at his school showing up, TV and news camera crews, everything. Everyone's all up in his grill, And this puts a strain on the relationship between him and his friends and his aunt, Aunt May. Or should I say Hot May, as played by Marissa Tomei in this movie. That's what some of the fans call her. Because we so used to seeing Aunt May as an old woman, like a senior citizen, and she's a lot younger in this version of Spider-Man. And I have no problem with that, because Marissa Tomei is a fantastic actress, so I have no issue with that. With that being said, yeah, things are strained in the relationship with Peter and MJ, because, and this has a great effect on it, the fact that everybody knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, so it's no secret anymore. And, everybody wants a piece of him. Everyone wants a piece of Spider-Man. And what happens is MJ and Ned, his lover and his best friend, are trying to get into MIT University, because they want to go to college and get on a scholarship And what happens is that none of them get accepted. Peter also tries to go, but because of the fact everyone knows he's Spider-Man, that that puts a kibosh on that idea. None of them get accepted, so he gets discouraged, and he goes to Doctor Strange to help him, because obviously Strange has magical powers, and he saw what he did in Infinity War and all that, He's hoping maybe, we can go back in time like we did in Avengers Endgame, and, maybe everyone will forget that he's Spider-Man. So that's the plan, basically, and once Doctor Strange starts to cast the spell, and then Peter starts saying, oh, well, does everybody have to forget? What about Aunt May? She should still know. Or what about MJ? She should still know. He's like, shut up, I'm trying to do the spell, and that screws everything up, and all of a sudden he releases the multiverse. And in comes out all these classic villains from all the other Spider-Man movies and the from an alternate universe. In comes the Green Goblin, played by Willem Dafoe. In comes Dr. Octopus, played by Alfred Molina. And, you got Jamie Foxx as Electro from the Amazing Spider-Man films by Mark Webb. So you get basically his whole rogues gallery of villains together at once. And it's so great to see. It's so much fun. It's awesome to see these great villains back. I love Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. Green Goblin's my favorite Spider-Man villain. He might be my favorite comic book villain, period. And I loved his performance in the original Spider-Man from 2002. And let me tell you something. Willem Dafoe kills it in this movie. He's brilliant. He's awesome. You're going to love it, And same thing with Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus. He just kills it, And a lot of focus is put on those two characters, and I love that because they were so great. I'd say not as much with the Sandman and the Lizard as they could be, but I still enjoy their characters. And I will also say I enjoyed Jamie Foxx as Electro this time. I didn't really care for him in Amazing Spider-Man 2, but he stepped it up in this movie. He was funny, he was more likable, He was cool. He was more powerful. His powers were really cool this time, He had this, hyped up new suit, and he looked cool, He wasn't blue anymore. They even make fun of that in the movie. But, yeah, I liked his character better in this movie, so an improvement on the Electro character. So yeah, like I said, they could have focused a little bit more on the Lizard and Sandman, but still, we got some cool Sandman special effects like we saw in Spider-Man 3, though that was cool. But I mean, how can you possibly put that much focus? But I still think they did a damn good job balancing out all the villains. As well as all the different people in Spider-Man's life. We do see the return of Happy Hogan, and, there's the remnants of Iron Man and Avengers and all that. And, of course, Doctor Strange, and he's great once again. Benedict Cumberbatch, fantastic actor, and he does a great job. But I'd say as the film moves on, it's less about the MCU stuff, and that's what I really enjoy, Because I feel that Spider-Man doesn't need all that crap, He does fine on his own. He doesn't need Iron Man and all these other people from the MCU. It's cool to see him interact with Hulk and Captain America and all that, but he doesn't need it. That's why I liked seeing the second half. It was just all about Spider-Man and his life and his dealing with his villains, his rogues gallery, from the comics, I love that, And the special effects were great, the fight scenes were great, the action was great. And I will say Tom Holland's performance was great. This is easily the best performance of Tom Holland in the MCU and in the Spider-Man films. Easily. Because like I said, the progression of his character from boy to man. By the time the film's over, we're like, he's Spider-Man. And I love that, and that gives a lot of hope for the future. We're going to see Spider-Man finally grow up, be a man, and be an experienced superhero, not see him bumbling around, fumbling around and forgetting, making big mistakes, I think after this we're going to start seeing a more experienced Spider-Man, and I like that notion because that's how it was in the comics. We saw him get married and, become very experienced and very, very highly intelligent without that childlike innocence and naive character, to see him grow, and that's what Tom Holland does a great job at that, And I will say the stakes are higher, it's more emotional, it's more dramatic, it's more intense, and because, look at what he's dealing with. He's dealing with 5 of the biggest villains at once in his entire, history. And that's what's great. I love how they bring together the Sam Raimi movies, the Mark Webb movies, and this iteration of Spider-Man. They do such a great job balancing everything. It just amazes me. It's like mind-blowing. Like, how did they do that? Where they failed with that in movies like Spider-Man 3, it was so much going on and not enough focus on this or that. Same thing with Amazing Spider-Man 2, they did it again, and it was like too much going on, not enough focus on the lizard or this, But somehow, everything works in this movie. All the villains get their chance to shine, and they get their big moments, I'd say more so Goblin and Octopus, but still, even the other ones have some great moments, some good funny lines. I always think it's so much fun seeing the villains work together and have a back and forth repartee, It's so much fun. It's just like when you read the comics when you're a kid and you see like a couple different villains team up and they're like plotting what they're going to do, how they're going to handle Spider-Man. And they talk about their past history in dealing with Spider-Man, and that's always fun too, It just makes for, you feel like a kid, you feel like a little kid, sitting there reading your comic books, and you're seeing these villains plot, and and it's just a great time, and that's what's great about this movie. It's a great time. It's a good, fun time at the movies, so I highly suggest you go see it in a theater because it's big time. This is the biggest Spider-Man movie in a long, long time. Maybe the biggest ever, And I'm not going to say it's perfect. There were a couple things I didn't like I said, that they could have focused a little bit more on the Lizard character and the Sandman character, and also the main plot of the whole multiverse thing, the way it came together, seemed like it could have been more complex. It was a little bit too simple. It's just like, oh, everyone's going to forget Spider-Man, and then, everything goes to hell, and all these villains come from everywhere. It could have been a little bit more complicated than that, but it works. It works at the end of the day. It's simple, but it works. But I just feel like they could have spent a little bit more time making that a little bit more complex like you would see in the comic books or something. But at any rate, like I said, you can't have it all, but you have as close to everything as you can possibly want in a Spider-Man movie right here. You're not going to get any better than this, because this has everything you could want in a Spider-Man movie, You get the Green Goblin, you get Dr. Octopus, you get all his classic villains, and I will say there is another character that shows up that you are not going to expect, and I'm not saying it's somebody from the Spider-Man universe, really. It's not someone from the Sam Raimi movies or the Mark Webb movies or these movies. It's someone that you would totally never expect, but just think the New York City character, another New York City character. And that's all I'm going to say, Think about it. Think about who that could be, And I don't think I'm spoiling too much by saying that. That's kind of vague. But when I saw that character show up, I was like, wow, that's really cool. And that opens up a lot of possibilities. And that's another thing I feel by the end of this film, that there's a lot of possibilities for the future, what's going to happen. And I'm very excited about what the future holds for Spider-Man. And that's another great aspect of this film. So definitely run and see this film, guys. I highly, highly recommend Spider-Man No Way Home. It's an excellent film. One of the best Spider-Man films of all time. Maybe the best. I needed a little time to mull that over a little bit. But it's certainly easily the best Spider-Man in the MCU film, and the best Tom Holland Spider-Man film. So definitely check it out, guys. That's my review. Thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Sci-Fi Corner.